What's up, guys? It's Sebastian. Just real quick, wanted to remind you to hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening on, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, whatever. Go ahead and subscribe before we get started. Thank you for listening. Episode 30 of the Tool Bags Up Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Sebastian Caballero, and I am not happy. There's a lot of shit going on in the world, but particularly here in the sports world, people are trying to piss me off. Got a bit of an extended show here. We're covering two different subjects. Got my entire squad on today, which is really cool. First time we're actually doing this. I'm really excited to have these guys all on, although I may lose my shit here because shit's ridiculous, man. I try to avoid these conversations with these teams like the Cowboys and the Lakers, guys, the teams that are constantly being talked about because it's always the same shit. But in this situation, dude, like, it's really starting to piss me off, this whole Dak Prescott situation. And in specific, here's why we're talking about it today. So Michael Irvin has come out and said that he feels that the Cowboys owe Dak for getting basically a discount his first 4 years of his career. Now, I'm not sure how you guys feel about that, but Dak was already offered 5 years, $175 million a year. That's a $35 million a year average, which puts him at the same level as Russell Wilson, who's the highest paid quarterback in the league right now. So I want your thoughts. Mike, I'm going to start with you, Mike. Give me your thoughts on Michael Irvin's comments, because that's your boy, right? Miami Hurricanes, right, baby? Are you with him, or where do you stand on the situation?
First and foremost, this is my first episode, so thank you for bringing me on. I'm excited. But to get to the point, Michael Irvin has a big influence when it comes into the Cowboys team, that franchise. If I'm not mistaken, I heard something about Jerry Jones still takes care of him. So with Michael Irvin actually saying what he said about the back pay, about everything like that, I don't know how much it's going to pay as an influence, but it will have some type of influence in paying Dak in some which way or another. Does he deserve the 40-something million dollars that he wants to have or is asking for? I don't think so at all. But you can argue the fact that last year he was one of the best quarterbacks. He was top 5 in a lot of categories. He was top 10 quarterbacks for sure. But that 1 year, is it going to pay dividends to the rest of the contract that they're going to sign him for? I don't know. You got Amari, you have Ezekiel, you have that offensive line. You're going to have to pay him if you're the Cowboys. The ball is in his court. And it's going to be a tough thing to see because obviously what Michael Irvin said is what a lot of people are thinking when it comes to signing Dak Prescott.
Claudia, we've spoken before about this subject briefly, and you're one of those that believes that Dak should get paid. What were your thoughts on the comment?
Do I personally agree he should get paid the $40 million? No. Is he worth more than Russell Wilson? No. Is he worth more than Aaron Rodgers? No. Drew Brees, Tom Brady? No. And right now he gets this $40 million. He would be the top, of the top, which for an 8-8 team, is he? Yes, I believe he made I think $5 million in the last 4 years. So seeing all his other teammates making $20 million, making $11 million over here, is that kind of a slap in the face to the leader of the team? And does it kind of bring down the respect if you want to build a franchise around someone? No. But I think that he is going to get paid. Not that I want him to get paid. I think he is going to get paid because they waited too long. If they would have concreted something last year when Carson Wentz was being paid, when that kind of average, which would have, been a good salary average, what Dak deserves, something kind of like what Wentz is making, I would have agreed. But they waited last minute towards Mahomes money with Watson money. Is he worth it? No. In my personal belief, don't hate me, Cowboy fans, but he's going to get it because they waited to the nick of time.
Austin, what are your thoughts?
Pretty much in agreement with everyone. Cowboys, they didn't play their cards right, honestly. The Cowboys should have done the deal in the middle of the season when everyone was talking about it, but here they are in the offseason, heading into the next season, and still no Dak Prescott under contract. They should have signed him when he was a bit cheaper in the middle of last year, but they failed on that. And then they waited to play their cards, try to get him on the franchise tag. Doesn't want to sign the franchise tag. What do they do now? Honestly.
So,
and like Mike said, thank you for having me on the show first time.
oh, guys, you guys gotta stop asking me on. You guys have been a part of this team as of last week. You don't have to think you guys earned this spot. Go ahead, Claudia.
When we spoke, you gave an amazing point with Dalton. Could you please explain that? Because to me, that changed and mine blew me, that opinion.
So before I get to that, let me give you my take, and I appreciate you saying that. but let me give you guys my take on the whole thing, and I'm gonna play somewhat of a devil's advocate here with the whole Dak situation. So I've been trying to figure out how Dak is seeing this situation, right? And I kind of figured it out. So 4 years ago, the 49ers locked up Jimmy Garoppolo without him having accomplished anything. Obviously, what we know that, you know, he was 10-0 as a starter, his first 10 starts or whatever, but he hadn't accomplished anything. So to make him the highest paid quarterback was kind of like a stretch. But if you look at his contract now and what he's getting paid, he was, I believe per an annual salary, he was making $27 million. That contract now would be a mid-tier contract, an average contract for a quarterback. So Dak asking for $35 million and then some more on the back end is because that contract in 2, 3, 4 years will be a middle of the pack contract. So I'm going to defend him there. Now, my issue is he is already a middle of the pack quarterback. And like we were talking about before the show, he's getting $35 million. What is the back pay? Like, is $35 million going from $2 million to $35 million a year? Is that not back pay? That's already more than what he's worth. So I don't understand Michael Irving's point that he's trying to make. $35 million is a lot of money. And I don't think, number one, they're overpaying for him already. I don't think they owe him shit for anything. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't accomplished anything. He was 1-6 against playoff teams last year. Couldn't get into the playoffs in a year where the Eagles were completely beat up. There's two horrible teams in that division. He's right now the second best quarterback in the division. And if Daniel Jones continues to progress the way he is, if he can figure out how to hold on to the football, Dak is looking to be the third best quarterback in that division. He cannot be the highest paid player in the league. But now that you brought up that point, this is the argument that I've been making. I don't see how I don't see Dak as such a necessity that you have to pay him. And what I mean by that is that he, at best, with the Cowboys, is going to be 9-7, 10-6. At best, somebody had thrown this out there. I'll give it to you. If everything plays out in their favor, they're an 11-5 team. They did not upgrade their defense. They do have the weapons, but I'm not buying the Cowboys as an 11-win team. And I just feel that the signing of Andy Dalton for $7 million. Andy Dalton with the Bengals as a rookie, his first 4 years in the league, had talent around him, and he was able to make the playoffs. I don't think a 9-7, 10-6 Cowboys team with Andy Dalton there is a stretch. Like, why would you pay $28 million more to get the same production that you would for a guy that's getting paid $7 million? Now, I want to know your guys' thoughts, because everybody has different thoughts on Andy Dalton, because maybe the recency bias of the last couple of years with the Bengals. But I want to know your guys' thoughts on that idea. Would you be opposed to letting Dak walk and starting Andy Dalton this year?
So I think I can speak on this. It's pretty funny. This year, the Cowboys played the AFC North, and the previous division Andy Dalton in was in the AFC North. And that does give him an upper hand. AFC North is pretty tough, and they also play the NFC West, which is pretty much loaded right now. I feel like any of those teams can come out of there. So it's going to be really tough for either side of whoever's going to be quarterback to play. But I do love that the Cowboys have a backup plan in Andy Dalton, because he was a starting quarterback ever since he got in the league. So, I mean, why not kick the tires on him, see what's up with him? And if not, you just have a new starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what Austin was saying, Andy Dalton is Andy Dalton. Everybody knows how he is. But he did play on a team. The Bengals aren't known for their offensive line. The Bengals they're pretty much their only option was Joe Mixon or bust. I mean, AJ Green was hurt the whole entire year. Their second wide receiver, I can't think of his name right now. He got hurt. John Ross, I'm sorry, he got hurt.
Tyler Boyd.
Or okay, there you go. Like these are things, and then they took him out and they put their backup in, and he was dying to get traded. He really was. I mean, so I understand what you're trying to say, putting him in, but it might actually work out with a better team. You have Amari Cooper, you have Ezekiel, like I stated earlier, and then you get your draft pick, and it might be a good situation for Andy Dalton to actually fit in. But let's see, man. Dak is a little bit. I think, in my opinion, Dak might be a little bit more proven than Andy Dalton would be, since Andy Dalton's already on the decline. He's already a little bit older, but you have to fit him into the pieces, and you have to see where he actually plays into that offense.
Letting Dak walk would be starting this all over again. Look for that new rookie, see where they stand in the draft next year, so on and so forth. Do I believe that Dalton will succeed with the weapons offensively given? Yes. But again, there is something that the Cowboys didn't do, nor for Dak, nor for Dalton. Their defense hasn't improved. So, with the new, offense, with his new team offensively, do I think Dalton's going to rock it? Yes. With Dak, maybe a little bit more? Yes. But either way, the team's problem was the defense opening up that cap space too and not paying Dak so much. Could, in the next 2 years, bring another quarterback that is going to rock their socks off.
So I spoke a little bit too. I kind of just wanted to get everything out there. I know I spoke for a little bit. I did mention something, and I think all you guys have valid points on this. It's really hard because it's you guys know that like Spider-Man meme where they're like all pointing at each other. That's what Andy Dalton and Dak Prescott are to me. It's just one is worth a lot more than the other. But I wanted to ask you guys, because this came up at a conversation, and we're gonna switch now over to how this specific situation is going to affect the other quarterbacks in the league that are due to get paid, Mahomes, Watson. I had an argument with this other person, and they said that Dak is the best quarterback in the NFC East. So the discussion was between him and Wentz, obviously. Real quick, just what are your guys' thoughts? Who would you rather have, Carson Wentz or Dak?
Ask me, I'm taking Carson Wentz. But you do have to always ask yourself the question about, who's going to actually last you longer in the season. He has been hurt. He hasn't finished a season the past 2 years, maybe 3. I mean, he didn't even play in the Super Bowl in that playoff run. You got Nick Foles that actually finished off that. So Dak might be a good player, a good quarterback. It's a good argument to put, I guess you could say. But if you ask me, take away the arguments, take away everything, you put in Carson Wentz, but you got to pay somebody, and I think the Cowboys need to pay him. And I'm going to stick to that. I'm going to keep saying that to the end of this argument.
I'm going to go with Wentz, even if he is a little bit more frail. But what he did last year is something, the way he played it last year was something that Dak hasn't gotten to yet. Dak has been average. Carson Wentz, what hurts him is his injuries, but his ability to play in the plays he makes, 100% Wentz.
Pretty much in agreement with everyone. Carson Wentz, and just like everyone said, the injury proneness it's a down factor, but the play, I mean, sometimes you got to take the play over the possibility of him getting injured because he's done more superior stuff to Dak Prescott in his shorter time in the league.
So, Claudia, you used the argument that I would use is last season. The Eagles were completely depleted. They were 5-7. They needed to win out with a depleted team. They had no receiving core, and Carson was able to go 4-0. Dak, on a Cowboys team that suffered basically no injuries, could not win the big games, and he couldn't get it done. So that, to me, that just answers the question right there. And then to Mike, to your point, all your guys' points about the injuries, I feel like it's so hard to win a Super Bowl, but who's most likely at their best to win you a Super Bowl? At his best, Carson Wentz is a top 5 quarterback. Dak was at his best this past season, and you saw what happened. They were an 8-8 team. Let's talk now about the other quarterbacks because, like I said in my earlier argument, this contract is going to play a factor in future contracts because you got guys like Mahomes and Watson that are due for huge contracts, and I don't think anybody will argue that they didn't deserve these contracts. But I had a conversation now with my roommate JT, who will be on with us for our fantasy football episodes, and he brought up a good point. Where does it stop? Like, yes, eventually the price for quarterbacks is going to keep going up, up, and up. When would that stop? So my question to you guys is, for Mahomes and Watson, if Dak were to get the contract that he wants, 35 plus million, where does that put guys like Mahomes and Watson that have maybe accomplished a little bit more than Dak has at this point in their careers?
Billionaires, my friend. Obviously, you know, they're the two of the, so like I said, if I would have been the Cowboys, I would have signed them when it was more of a Wentz, and I forgot who the other quarterback that just got signed last year, extended for last year, was, that they were more in the 20s, more cap of Dak. Now you're dealing with the bigger leaps. Honestly, I feel, I don't know how they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins, but Deshaun Watson is the quarterback I respect 100% more than Dak. And Mahomes, come on. If Dak's getting 40, Mahomes has to be getting 50. So is it going to stop? Not if these owners and these GMs don't put a lock. If these GMs and owners keep doing what the Cowboys did this year, it's not going to stop. It's going to keep going up and up and up and up.
Yeah, especially with Mahomes. You know, so early in his career, he took the Chiefs to the Super Bowl, and you can already MVP. You can already see that he's going to be Hall of Fame. I mean, it's so early in his career, and he's already on that track. You're going to have to pay that guy, and everybody has to end up having to, I guess you could say, you know, building that ladder or just making that exclamation point, I guess you could say, when it comes to signing a contract. Jared Goff did it a couple years back. Jared Goff isn't the greatest quarterback to play the game, but he got signed to a hefty contract. He took his team to
it was Wentz and Goff that were on that team.
I was thinking that same day. I don't want to interrupt you. But Jared Goff, then I remember Aaron Rodgers set the bar. You know, it's always going to be somebody that's always going to want more money. And, of course, I mean, it's going to – honestly, I was just thinking about it when Claudio was talking. They might have to implement something like how NBA is. Maybe put a max deal or something, because these deals are only going to get higher and higher and higher.
Austin, I'm gonna jump in because I'm assuming you're gonna agree with them as far as paying Mahomes. This is an argument that I brought up with JT. So you're starting to see this in Major League Baseball, where 10 years ago, the superstars, as soon as they're due up for their big contract at age 29, 30, they're getting locked up with these long-term contracts. And you're seeing it with like the Pujols and the Canoes, that long-term it's not paying off. In the last two off seasons, you're actually seeing superstars not be signed until February, March into spring training because they're not getting those long-term deals. It's almost like teams realize it's like, okay, that's enough. We're not going to keep going 300 mil, 400 mil, 500 mil. That's ridiculous. We're going to sign these guys to whatever we want to sign them to, right? Because if they're not willing to do it, there's plenty of talent out there. Now, it's never worked that way in the NFL because obviously there's only so many Aaron Rodgerses and Patrick Mahomes out there. But we are getting to that stage in the NFL where every team now has a legitimate quarterback, a legitimate option at quarterback. Like if you look at next year, what teams are really looking for quarterbacks? Maybe the Jags, the Patriots. But everyone has that guy that at least for the next 3-4 years is like, okay, we'll get this. Do you guys see, now Austin, obviously you're up here. Do you see a scenario or a time where maybe a team, obviously not Mahomes and Watson, but, maybe somebody like a mid-tier, say in a couple years down the road, like a Daniel Jones, if he's not a top 10 QB, but he is due for a payday, could you see NFL teams just being like, nah, man, we're not going to pay this guy. We're just going to take our chances and roll the dice with somebody in the draft?
A lot of teams like to roll the dice on draft picks, but I think testing the free agent market is one of the best ways to get players because you already seen what they've done in the league and you know their tendencies. But that's also a downfall because other teams have that film as well. And when it comes to college kids, some teams might not have all the film that you may have on a certain player. So either way, teams can address it either way. It depends on all the hype, because past couple of years has been loaded QB draft classes, and then other years there hasn't been. So, I mean, QB is one of the toughest positions to fill in on your roster. So I think they got to do it the best they can.
Look at what being a team player does for you, though. What Tom Brady always did with the Patriots, kind of give up what I have to get rings. What Winston is doing, he's making $1 million this year. But you know what? He's going to learn from one of the best quarterbacks, Drew Brees. And you know what? Maybe those 2 years that he's going to be learning from Drew Brees is going to make him a franchise quarterback. You're putting down your ego to learn and to get the rings. That's the objective. Team player.
Dale, Mike.
Oh, I was waiting for you guys.
You got the floor, baby. You got the floor.
Well, I guess just to keep on going what I was trying to say earlier too, I mean, yeah, you're going to see Daniel, but it all depends. And I don't want to keep on going back and forth with the whole Dak Prescott, even though that is the topic, but you gotta perform in order to get paid. And yeah, maybe they didn't make the playoffs this year or last year, but he had his best year of his career. He has, I guess, when it comes to Dak's situation, he has something that he can argue about. I guess when you're talking about the next people coming up, and trying to get more money, it's gonna happen. It happens with every single position. But are you gonna want, when it comes down to it, those franchises and those teams, are you gonna roll the dice like how Austin said and go with the draft pick? Or are you gonna go with someone that's already proven and hopefully get a hometown discount or try to get something in there?
Okay, so would you still feel that way even though you know that this person isn't gonna win you a Super Bowl, like the Raiders locking up Derek Carr, something like that? This guy is serviceable. He might be able to win you games, but he's not gonna be that top tier quarterback. You would still lock him up.
Listen, there's something that I always say, and it pertains to a different position in the NFL. It has to do with the running back, but it can do, depending on the situation on your team. A running back, in my opinion, that position is a revolving door in the NFL. You can only be so good so long, I guess you could say. Only the greats can be so good so long. So when it comes to quarterback, if you're asking for so much, and especially in football, where you got 53 other players you need to pay, especially if they're going to be in the top tier rank. I mean, I don't doubt if someone will say, hey, listen, I'm just going to go with the backup, maybe tank. I don't know what their plan they want to be. Maybe get a higher draft pick and then go after a quarterback in the draft and go from there. So, that's my point on it, pretty much.
Man, I don't know. I feel like I'm so on one side. I could see where I wouldn't lock up. Like, if I don't feel like the quarterback that I have is the guy, I'm going to draft another one and I'm going to push you. And I feel like that's a mistake that many teams do. I did a podcast not too long ago talking about the Dolphins, and they brought up that one of the issues with Tannehill is that Tannehill was never pushed. He never had that to fight for a spot, and that may be what held him back. And then now that he was at Tennessee with Mariota, that he had to compete, that he was a backup, you saw the result of that, and he played much, much better. So for me, if I don't feel like my guy is my guy, I'm gonna keep drafting or try to bring in a guy that's gonna compete for a spot and try to make my starting quarterback better.
Well, you don't think that Aaron Rodgers isn't gonna bring up his A+ game now with this new quarterback drafted? He is going. To me, the Packers are gonna be amazing this year just because of that ego punch they gave him. He's just gonna try to prove himself that much better.
It's true.
Yeah, it's such an Aaron Rodgers thing to do.
Especially all that press that he's came into. He wasn't happy about that either when they picked him up. When they picked up Luke, he wasn't happy at all. I
mean, how could you be happy, bro? I mean, you just went 13-3 and one game away from the Super Bowl. Obviously, the 49ers are just that much talented. Like, that's that much more talented than the Packers. But instead of building on that, and honestly, we're running out of time here, so we're not gonna dive into this. We could dive into this another time. But yeah, man. I mean, you had an opportunity to kind of build around him, get him the weapons that he needs so he could succeed. Like, he's still Aaron Rodgers, man. And like some of the throws, some of the plays that he made last year were even like, man, like he's not in his prime, but this is still a top 5 quarterback in the league. And I just think it's a shame because although I think they're going to be good, they didn't fill the needs that they needed to in the draft. I think they were thinking more long term, and it was very unfortunate to see. But guys, that's going to be it for this segment here, man. You guys did awesome. I love this right here. Do you guys have any final thoughts? We got about 5 minutes.
One last thing about Dak. Though his performance isn't that great, I got to say his record, he hasn't had a losing season since he's been in the league. 13-3, 9-7, 10-6, and 8-8. That's at the 500 mark, but it's not a losing season. So, I mean, they haven't been unsuccessful with Dak. They just haven't made it to the playoffs or haven't even gone past the first round, and it's very unfortunate for them.
Mikey.
Pay the guy. I'm not going a whole entire year with Andy Dalton. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it. That's not me. Pay the guy, but try to figure it out a way that you could get him lower than $40 million because he's not worth that. I can tell you that much.
Pay the guy and make sure that other teams and GMs don't make this mistake. Yes.
Give me Andy Dalton for $7 million. I'm riding him, and if we're 8-8, that means we were gonna be 8-8 with Dak anyways. Guys, thank you for joining, and we'll talk next week. All right. Bye, guys. Bye. God, man, that topic really frustrates me, man, because I just don't see how somebody could see Dak. Like, Dak, if he was a top 5 quarterback in the league, a top 5 talented quarterback in the league, I would be like, dude, pay him. But this is not a guy that's going to win you a Super Bowl. He is not the most important player on that Cowboys offense. And if you're not the most important player, you can't be the highest paid. They already locked up Amari Cooper, $20 million. They're locked up with Zeke with however many million. Now you're locking up another one. Your pieces around him are going to deteriorate. Like, part of the reason why they were so successful is because he was on a team-friendly contract, obviously. So they were able to put pieces around him. Now, by you locking up Dak, you're relying on him to save you, and he's not going to be able to do that. I don't see how you lock up Dak Prescott. And the Chiefs and the Texans, the reason why I brought him up, the reason why I brought up Mahomes and Watson is because this is important for them, because if they lock up Dak at 35 mil, okay, so they have more or less a number. Like, obviously they're going to make more than Dak, but if they lock him up for 40 million a year, now it's like, shit, like, I'm going to have to invest a lot more than I maybe feel comfortable with, signing my quarterback. Obviously, Mahomes is a little bit of a different story. I would write about blank check, whatever he wants, whatever it is going to take to keep him. But Watson, even though he's special, you do have to take into account that he does get injured a lot, that his play might, drop a little bit, especially after losing his number 1 target. The Colts are going to be a lot better this year. So are the Tennessee Titans. They're always going to be in the mix there, and the Texans aren't going to be as good. So I don't know. For me, it just, I have so much trust in Andy Dalton that he can get me 9 wins. If you can get me 9 wins at $7 million as a quarterback, I would take that than overpaying Dak and really struggle for the next couple of years. I would only sign Dak to that much money if I know he can win me a Super Bowl, and I know that he can. All right, we're going to switch subjects here. Got to talk some MLB. I was already heated coming into the conversation, but I just found out the Marlins did not take Asad Lacy or Austin Martin with their number 3 pick. They took some dude from Minnesota. Hopefully he ends up panning out, but I'm a little upset because we didn't get the guy that I wanted. We'll talk about the draft a little bit later on in the show, but let's welcome on our 3 baseball guys here. We got Sheehan, Planas Arteaga, Hector Rodriguez, and Justin Garcia. What's going on, guys?
What's up?
So,
lots to talk about.
So, Justin, I know that you were passionate about this the last time that we spoke, man. Baseball has still not reached an agreement, bro. Like, it does not make sense that we have not reached an agreement. The fact that we're not going to, our goal was to start by July 4th, and that is all but gone now. It doesn't seem like we're going to start anytime soon. Bro, what are your thoughts on this whole deal that the MLB just cannot reach an agreement, man?
I mean, it just looks like it's just the weakest sport, you know? It makes me feel like it's going to be the next boxing. You know, I feel like it's low-key, it's going to die out, you know? And as much as I don't want it to, and there's thinking of so many things to make it fan-friendly and all that and whatnot, just the fact that baseball is just keep being prolonged and it's just headaches, at least for the fan side of it, it just doesn't make me feel good about the sport in the future, you know?
Definitely not great. It's really depressing to have been a baseball player, a fan of MLB. It's just I don't know, man. I mean, these are all business people. You can't tell me that the owners in the NBA, the governors in the NBA and the owners in the NFL are somehow better people than they are in baseball. There's something that baseball owners are not as attracted to when it comes to playing games that the guys running the NBA and the guys running the NFL can somehow get past. Maybe there's not enough money in baseball. I don't know, but they're not budging. So I don't know what the hell's going to happen.
It's pretty sad right now because when you look at baseball, they had the perfect opportunity to become the only sporting event, really, besides the UFC. They were the only ball sport to, be on national television. That, for a sport that is struggling to, become more popular and, attract the younger fans, this would have been a perfect situation. You could have made the best out of a pretty bad situation that we're still in with COVID-19. You could have been on TV, a lot more eyes glued to the TV because there's nothing else really much going on. And you could promote the young stars that are in this game today. I mean, and that's the crazy thing with baseball. Baseball, the talent's just getting younger and better. So there's not like a lack of, talent coming in. Baseball players are still coming in. They're still coming in, and doing a phenomenal job. I mean, when you look at guys like Ronald Acuna, Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis, I mean, these guys get to the major leagues and are instantly not only just impact guys, but are arguably the best player on their team. So when you look at that, you can use that and promote it because, when you say let the kids play, some of the best players in today's game are the younger kids.
So
I think it was a completely missed opportunity because also a lot of these younger kids are exciting and, they have a little bit more flair and that would have added to popularity.
So Sheehan, just to comment on something that you said, it's not like the MLB doesn't have money, right? Like, I feel like they're the third most popular sport in the U.S. currently. I'm not sure, right? But they made nearly $11 billion last season, which was a new record. And every year they're setting a new record in for revenue. So they have the money, that's what doesn't make sense to me. It's like, why are you being so cheap? And I've mentioned this before. As a business owner, you know that there's always risk in owning a business. Like, you might have to take a loss. And if the MLB owners are going to take a loss, it's not like it's going to be like a prolonged loss that's going to be for the next couple of years. Like, if you can't handle 1 year of losing revenue, then you shouldn't own a team. I think the Royals are for sale right now, if I'm not mistaken. But like that's what you got to do. Like, you can't just sit out the season because you're gonna have long-term problems with it, bro. Like, if they're the only sport not to come back, I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. The MLS is gonna jump the MLB in popularity, man. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. But let me I guess, because one of the things that I hate about people, I don't like people that bring problems, right? I don't like you telling me that there's a problem. I like people that can bring forward solutions. So there has to be a way that we can get this figured out. If you guys were the MLBPA or an MLB owner, what do you think would be like? What is the perfect plan? How are we going to get baseball back on the field this season? Sheehan, go ahead.
Well, the MLB's got just a real issue with giving them fully prorated salaries. I mean, it's already a pay cut it's going to be half the season or at the most 3/4 of the season. So I don't know why they're trying to add another cut. Like you said, if you're owning an MLB team, you should be able to take a hit for one season. But clearly there's an issue with that. So just defer the payments, give them, say, 75% pay this year, defer the payments, pay them back, I don't know, next spring training, at the end of next season, something. But give them all the money that they were owed in 2020 at some point in the next couple years. And enough with this, like they keep hiding behind safety as to why they don't want to play into October, the regular season into October. You don't give a shit about safety of the players. This is a dollars and cents issue. Don't hide behind that. Play until October. It's okay. And if we play into November, if the World Series is in November, play at a neutral site. Be like the Super Bowl. I mean, you have to adjust. The NBA is doing it. You got to come up with some kind of solution. If you play into November, you can play around 100 and something games. Give them 75% of their pay and pay the rest later.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that everything really has become a business, really. It's kind of just sad to say, because you really do see the NBA, how they're all going to Orlando, and they're really making things happen. They're really adjusting. And, you know, the MLB, it's not like they could play in Arizona, you know? They could play in Florida. They could really make it happen if they really wanted to. It's just sad to see that it really is about dollars and cents, and who is going to get shortchanged, who's making money and who's not. It's just like, that's not what baseball's about. You know, baseball really is America's pastime. People have loved the game. It's America's game. And at this point, I want to see everyone lose out on money, but I want to see the game being played, and we can put this, you know, behind us and move on next year. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it has to be, if it goes into November, it is what it is. But it really is just sad. It's sad more for the missed opportunity. Because look at Korean baseball. I was up at 7 a.m. today watching the KBO today, and I was locked in. And I'm a guy, I hate watching bad baseball. And the KBO, there are some great, good players there, but it's not good baseball. It doesn't compare to the big leagues. Not even close. And, like, I was glued to this, and it's just like, wow, if the MLB was going on right now, and it would have, everyone's eyes would be on the MLB right now. And I feel like it would rejuvenate the sport almost. But it's just really fighting for every dollar and penny, and really, like, taking a hit. Like, it's just going to go even lower on the totem pole, in my eyes.
Yeah, pretty much. I agree with both of you. You guys are both making good points. One thing that I would do if I was to, you know, orchestrate a plan, I would do the 75% like Gian said, but the rest I would pay in the offseason, because these players don't get paid in the offseason. They only get paid during the time they're playing. So it gives the owners more time to pay the players, and it's, you know, less that they have to pay, but they still get their money at the end of the day. I mean, it's just a sad situation, because we should be watching baseball right now. And this is a sport that, you know, when people are worried about social distancing, besides, you know, the home plate umpire, the catcher and batter, everyone else is pretty spread out. It is literally almost perfect for the game, you know. And it's just, you know, this is a sad situation. It's a situation that is going to have more long-term effects, you know, negatively, because people are going to lose interest. And in fact, baseball fans are already pissed off and just saying, you know what, just cancel the season. Even though I want the season to happen, but there's some baseball fans that are just completely fed up with everybody on both sides.
So I had made a couple proposals on episode 27. Justin, you were on that one, about what I think should be done. And today I was thinking, and I thought of a scenario, and I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on this. The issue is this. Owners would like to have a season as long as it's not going to cost them as much money. Superstar players do not want to play unless they're getting paid what they signed for. Understandably so, right? I could understand both points. Even though, for me, the owners, like, I would pay my guys, but I'm not a billionaire, so I don't know. Like, you know, maybe my opinion would change if I did have that kind of money. Where do they agree? The owners are okay with not having a season. The highest paid players in the league are okay not having a season because it's not going to cost them money. So what if you allow these superstar players, which is part of an old proposal that I had made. What if you allow players the option to not play this year? They would not get paid for this season. They wouldn't get any type of compensation. You just sit out the year. Your contract would continue on to next year, right? So this year just wouldn't count towards the contract. You extend their contracts by 1 year. And whoever does play, which will probably be a lot of these minor leaguers that are borderline, or maybe guys that are just trying to hit free agency, trying to, accumulate another year of service in the MLB to reach free agency faster. They will be enticed to play, and now you can put a product on the field. Whatever you put on the field is going to be watched because people are trying to watch sports. And I think where baseball can kind of get away with this is baseball does not rely on their superstars to really draw a crowd. And what I mean by that is like the NBA without LeBron would be a travesty. Tom Brady not in the NFL or Patrick Mahomes not in the NFL would be a travesty. Like, how many guys are there in the MLB where you're just like, man, that's a must-see guy. There's no way I'm not turning on the TV. Like, Mike Trout's on TV all the time, but it's like one of those things like, I'm okay just watching a good, like Justin said, a good baseball game. I don't really look for names. And I think baseball can actually get away with it, with having a season, with just having anybody play out there. Just some talent, some minor league talent, because there are guys where in the NBA, there's only one LeBron James. There's only one Tom Brady. There's only one Patrick Mahomes, right? But in the MLB, it depends. Mike Trout could go over for four strikeouts in a day, and then he could have a typical Mike Trout day where there's a minor leaguer that might struggle more than Mike Trout, but he could have a Mike Trout-like day, do something special. He could go 4 for 4 or 4 home runs. There could be a pitcher that throws a perfect game. How many guys have thrown perfect games that aren't superstars? So I feel like as the important part for the MLB is just to put a product out there. But I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on that proposal. And would it work?
I think that's interesting because it'll definitely put the ball in the player's court. Because I mean, at the end of the day, if you make it to the major leagues, you are a competitor. 100%, it's in your blood. You probably do whatever it takes to win, even if it's ping pong. So you could say that you're not going to play, but if you're a starting right fielder in the major leagues and another right fielder comes up and hits 340 in this 82-game season or whatever, it's going to make you sweat a little bit. I mean, you don't want to be Wally Pipp.
Yeah.
You don't want to be Wally Pipp.
Yeah.
I mean, just look like the Nationals were willing to part with Bryce Harper after Juan Soto came up and just lit the world on fire. So if you tell them like, hey, you don't have to play, no worries, we'll replace you, and next year your contract will it'll just carry over to next year. You'll get a lot of players that probably said they weren't going to play that are now going to be like, you know what, I kind of have to solidify my future and go out there and do what I can do.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I mean, look at all the strikes and stuff like that. Like I said before, I told Sebastian, there's going to be stars who come out of, guys wanting to play and, a bunch of young kids. The league, like we said, is a young league now. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. And talking about the MLB stars and the NBA stars, dude, I saw something like 3 years ago. I'll never forget it. It said Mike Trout's like stardom was equivalent to Kenneth Fareed in the NBA, and that's like a bench player like in the NBA. So it's like that's the least of the worries of that stuff. So the star players want to sit out. That's fine. There's going to be young kids who are going to ball out. There's going to be Wally Pipps and all of that. But I think it's just if you give the players options, that would be awesome. And you could honor someone's contract if he doesn't want to play, and it doesn't really hurt, and he's still going to get paid one way or another. That's great. But there's going to be so many competitors playing for whatever salary they don't even care. It would be fun to watch.
I mean, yeah, I think that's an offer that would work for both sides, especially if one of those big-time players don't want to play and decides to sit out. That'll be better for the owners because, it's less money that they have to pay, and, everything's going to pretty much work out for them. I think I'm just ready for baseball, that's all.
I think we all are, man. We literally all are, bro.
Just give me something to watch. Like, Justin, you're watching the KBO. I mean, I can only stomach the KBO for so much. I mean, some of these guys, I'm just like, really? I mean, just send some minor leaguers over there. Send Jazz Chisholm from the Marlins farm system. He'll absolutely, rake over there. But
let me tell you, for the record, the umpires in the KBO are awful, godforsaken awful.
Yeah.
Nah, but let me.
Come on, let's go. Come on, Uncle Rob. Let's figure this out. Give me some baseball, please.
For the love of God, man, and again, I don't think the quality of baseball, if there was just straight minor leaguers, would even be that bad. Like I called high single A baseball games for the Hammerheads and for the Palm Beach Cardinals up in Jupiter. And man, the talent that just went through there was insane because most of these guys are going to end up hitting the major leagues. So I think that baseball is a lot better than what we're seeing out in the KBO. But I do want to talk about the draft because it is tonight. This will come out tomorrow. So yesterday was the draft. We have the luxury of having two former professional players, two former draft picks, and a guy that's currently covering the draft. So we have a draft insider right now. But Hector, I'm going to start with you. What have been your thoughts about the draft so far? I know you only caught part of it because you joined us here, but what has been your thoughts so far on the draft picks, the guys that have been drafted so far?
Oh, I got you on the split screen right now. I'm watching. I got ESPN Plus on the background right now. But yeah, no, it's been a very weird draft. Spencer Torkelson from Arizona State, that was the first pick. That was one that nobody was really surprised of. But then the Baltimore Orioles, kind of reached for Heston Kjerstad. I'm a big fan of Heston Kjerstad. I've watched him at Arkansas for the past 3 years, and the kid can absolutely hit. But I think, I thought that, Austin Martin was a better option just because of what he can do at the plate. And then my Miami Marlins, made it even more interesting, drafting Max Myers, right-handed pitcher out of Minnesota, when everybody for the past month, or maybe even more, has been sold that Asa Lacy was going to be the pick. Let me give you a little bit about Max Myers. Max Myers is the only pitcher this draft to have a 70 grade in two different pitches. He's got a 70 grade fastball, he's got a 70 grade slider. That rates the best slider in the entire draft. So when you look at him pitch, he's not your prototypical pitcher. He's 6 foot. He's 6 foot tall. Doesn't weigh too much. He weighs under 200 pounds, but is a guy that can absolutely throw gas. He's a guy that sits 93 to 97 miles per hour and can get up to 100. Every now and then. Former closer at Minnesota. Ended up becoming a starter, and then you started to see him jump in the rankings because now you can build off this guy. This is a guy that has ace potential. Besides his fastball, his best pitch to me is the slider, and it's the best slider in the draft. It is absolutely devastating, and it can get up to low 90s. Got a lot of movement. The spin rate is, I think, close to 2,500. Throws a lot of strikes. Doesn't walk a lot of people. It's definitely a surprising pick. I was looking forward to the Marlins drafting Asa Lacy. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's a bad pick necessarily. I think Max Myers, if he develops, can be that ace type and has been compared to MLB stars like Tim Lincecum, Sonny Gray, and Marcus Stroman.
Yeah, so I mean, I want to make a couple of comments on something that you said. So obviously you felt that the Orioles reached there for a pick. The MLB draft's a little bit different than the NFL and the NBA draft because there's not a lot of movement. You're not trading because there's no sure thing in the MLB draft then. I mean, again, and we're going to talk to Justin and Sheehan about their experiences. They can tell you themselves there's no sure thing. Sheehan, I wasn't as close to your baseball career as I was with Justin, but, to give you, Justin had just an unbelievable year. The year that he got drafted seemed like fake, literally. Like it was like almost like if he was playing MLB The Show with the sliders up. Crazy, right? But it's a hard game, man. It's such a hard game, and you really don't know. So maybe the Orioles just felt like that was their guy, and it's like we can't wait for him, right? Like if we feel like this is our guy, we're gonna have to come out and reach for him. And the same thing with the Marlins. The one thing, even though like if we're gonna go pitcher, I would have liked to go Asa Lacy, but the one plus that I will give him, and maybe, you know, we all played baseball here, I think to have him be a 70 graded fastball and have a 70 graded slider, for me, if you're a flamethrower, if you have that, you need to have that slider, right? Like that's like, that shit's devastating. You look at guys like Chapman, like their secondary pitch. If you're gonna hum it in triple digits, and then you hit your secondary pitch as a slider, I think that's devastating. So that might be a plus, in the sense that he really could be an ace. I don't know anything about him again. I don't know. I would have gone Lacy, but hopefully it does end up panning out. I'm gonna go to Justin and Sheehan now. You guys were both draft picks. You guys both played professional baseball. Justin, I'll start with you because you're on the screen right now. What was that feeling of, you know, you were a 17th round draft pick, if I'm not mistaken. Just what was that feeling of you know, anticipating the draft and going through that entire process, man?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely a dream come true. You know, at the end of the day, it is a dream come true. You work your ass off to get there, and you don't really think the day's actually going to come. You know, you work so hard to get drafted, and like when it comes, it really is a surreal moment. It's a moment I'll remember forever. And even though things didn't work out with the Houston Astros, I mean, I'll always remember them. You know, as a team that took a chance on me, and you know, I mean, was I salty at first when things didn't work out? Yeah, you know, I was young, I was immature, but looking back at it, you know, I will always see that Houston Astros logo, and I will always remember what it felt like to see my name next to it. You know, so it definitely was a beautiful experience there with my family and whatnot. But, and I heard this saying, I remember my draft year, and I'll never forget it. There's only one person who's happy about the draft. It's the first pick. The first pick is the only person, because he's happy, because pick number 2 thought he was going number 1, pick 3 thought he was going 2 or 1, so everyone after that is pretty upset. So, you know what I mean? But, you know, so I was hoping to go earlier, but at the end of the day, man, I am happy. You know, it was a good season. Even Sheehan as well got drafted out of a Division II, so it is pretty cool, and we were against the odds, you know, trying to prove a lot of people wrong. But the draft experience was something I remember forever.
So before I get into my experience, I have to point out a little tidbit about Justin's magical season at Nova Southeastern. Is that he got drafted the year after I got drafted out of Barry, same conference, but they changed the balls for Justin's at Nova. So when I got drafted, I came in 3rd in the conference in home runs with 6. The leader had, I think, 12. Justin came along the next season with the rabbit balls and hit like 78 or whatever he hit.
So the pitchers were throwing harder too, and the sliders were better too.
I'm just busting your balls. It was incredible to see. Like Justin said, it's kind of something that you imagine happening, but it doesn't really seem real until it actually happens. Because and Justin probably had a similar experience. You got scouts telling you like, "Oh yeah, you're going next round, going this round, this round for sure." Yeah, 100%.
That's the part I forgot to mention. I feel like that's what you learn in real life. Your first real life experience. That like you cannot believe everything you hear.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, from round 10, actually. No, from round 9, I kept getting calls from the scouting, from the area scout that was in charge of me for Seattle. Kept getting calls like, "Hey, are you ready? Like, we're gonna give you a call." I ended up waiting till the 24th. So it was just like this constant like anxiety. Like, if my name was gonna be called, do I get a call before they call my name? Constant anxiety, and then. When your name gets called, no matter what, even if it's not the time that you wanted, it's a thrill. I was at my grandparents' house. There was a big party. I went outside, took the call, got a call from my agent afterwards, and then went back inside, and everybody erupted. It was incredible. And ironically, I was wearing. I knew it was probably going to be the Mariners, so I was wearing a Mariners jersey, and all I had obviously was the Griffey jersey because no one has the jersey of anybody else.
Well, was it the A-Rod one?
What's that?
It wasn't the A-Rod one?
No, it wasn't the A-Rod one. But my jersey had 24 on it, and I ended up getting drafted in the 24th round. I would have liked to have got drafted 24th overall, but, you know, the 24th round was good too. It was a great experience, and like Justin said, it didn't work out, and I was a little salty. There's a lot of just things happen. Everybody gets screwed over at some point in pro ball, but it's still an experience that I'm really thankful for because that team did take a chance on me.
Yeah, man. I mean, go ahead.
Back a little bit on that draft stuff, especially for the people that aren't too familiar with it, because I wasn't familiar, and I'm sure Sheehan wasn't familiar until it actually happens to you. The thing about the MLB draft, and it kind of sucks. Maybe this year is different, but the MLB draft is the only draft I feel like we don't get the best players. And not saying this is my experience or Sheehan's experience. They don't necessarily go after the best players. You go out, you're constantly trying to save money for the following rounds. You want to get this guy in the third pick overall because he's going to sign for way less than what the pick is worth. So, you're getting this, like Carlos Correa. He went first overall, and Byron Buxton went right after him, and he signed for way more than he did. It's because I knew Byron Buxton was going to be such an expensive draft pick, this big-time prospect, and that was like such a shocker. I mean, Carlos Correa ended up having a better career, but everybody knew they went Carlos Correa because it was going to save them a lot more money later on in the draft. And so that's a funny experience. So when people see, like, from the outside, like, wow, why is this guy getting taken? You're way better than him. It's just because they're trying to save money. It's so weird and that's like the business side of it that really does suck. And then in the first 10 rounds, they had a certain amount of money, and teams went super loaded their first 6 picks with these guys. The last 4 rounds, they have barely any money left. So they're just drafting college seniors from these schools, and you're just like, what? This guy went in the 7th round, and everyone's loving it, but some people are like, what? And that's just what it is. They're saving money. And so it's so weird how that draft works. I think it's the only draft that's like that. And I was talking about Sheehan, talking about the draft and talking to them and your agent. It's crazy because before they draft you, they give you calls before. And remember, coming off my Nova year, breaking all those records, you can't feel – I go into the draft feeling confident. Because I was a D2 guy, I had to go to a ton of pre-draft workouts to try to impress these big guys. BP is my thing. So I'll go out there and just hit BP all day if you want me to, every day. And so I'm thinking, man, and all these scouts, the area scouts loved me. All the area scouts were telling me, oh, you're going to go this, you're going to go 6th round, 7th round, top 10 for sure. So I'm like, cool. But remember, those area scouts are going against the other teams, other area scouts, them blowing up the other guys in their area. Guys who are D1, guys who are big-time high school prospects, So it's like, he's saying it, but like, they also got 10 other dudes saying, yeah, this dude's going in the 6th round. So it's just, is your name going to be luckily called? So it really is like really crazy, and it's an experience for sure.
No, guys, I mean that was honestly awesome. I'm glad we covered that last part. I think one of the cool things about our baseball segments is going to be that we do have a very experienced baseball staff here. We had 2 guys that, again, played professional baseball. Hector, we have so many connections here in the game of baseball, so I think that we're going to be able to produce so much valuable content. And I think this was great. I hope you guys enjoyed it because this is the first time of us working together here. It was great. Do you guys have any final thoughts? We have about 3 minutes left.
Nova over Barry. Always.
Jesus. Hector.
Argue that. We suck.
Hector, any thoughts?
Baseball. Please give me baseball. That is all. Please just give me baseball.
No more KBO.
No. Give me the Jupiter Hammerheads. I'll be happy. I wanted to see Encarnacion hit bombs again.
Yes, sir. I do too. Fellas, take care. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Man, so what a nice little episode we just had with the entire Tool Bags Up Sports Podcast crew. Thank you to all 6 of you guys, Mikey Mike, Claudia, Austin, Justin, Sheehan, and Hector. We will be on every single week, every single episode. I'm going to try to get these guys on there because, as you guys saw, these guys are awesome at what they do, and they provide the best content for you guys. That's going to be all for this one. Until next time, I'm signing off.